Hello, we're back to finish our little top-down baby sweater that we have been working on. And now that we finished the body, you can see on my small sample here, we're ready to sew up the sleeves. We have the sleeves here that are still unfinished. So in knitting, we do our sewing up and the majority of our finishing work almost exclusively on the outside of the work. There's a few exceptions where you would want to do your sewing up with the wrong sides facing like this one, as in sewing. But generally speaking, in hand knitting, we like to do our finishing in with the right side facing out. So I'm going to turn my sweater so that the sleeve is laying flat. Okay, and what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the uppermost stitch up here with this, we cast on our 2 stitches at the underarm when we started the sleeve. I am going to pin those 2 together just so that I don't end up with something that looks like that as I'm working. So I'm just going to pin those uppermost stitches together just as a guide to keep me going straight. Okay, then I'm going to use a tapestry needle with a big eye. I like to use the ones with the bent tip, but you could use a straight one or even a plastic one. This one's aluminum. It doesn't have to be one exactly like this. That would be your personal preference. Okay, so now I'm going to connect to the bottom here, and here's the beginning of the bind off. And you see there's this little bead right here. This is from the first stitch that got bound off. I like to go underneath that little space there, pull out from underneath, and then go back into the stitch where the yarn is coming out from. Here's where the yarn is coming out. I'll come in from behind, and you're kind of making a little figure 8. There's my figure 8. So you'll pull that snug, not super tight, just snug, because what we want is we want the bottom of the sleeve. See that little figure 8 looks just like, it'll look just like the rest of the casting on. Okay, and now when we're working the seam, we're working from this is called the mattress stitch, by the way, and we generally don't want to use for this half of the outside edge, because it'll leave these gaps. What we're going to be using is the strand, the running thread in the center of a knit stitch. So here's my knit stitch. It looks like a V. You can see it comes together at the bottom. If I dive down at the bottom of the V there and then pop up, I catch the running thread. If I stretch the knitting, you could see the little ladder that's there. So I'm just going to dive down with my needle and pop back up and catch that running thread. So I'm going to start right at the bottom. Actually, let me back up there because I need to go in underneath my thread is on the outside. I want to just get right back through the cast on there so that I'm coming up underneath where I want to be. There we are. Okay, so the yarn is here. So now I'm going to go over to the other side, and I'm going to pick a thread on this side, and then I'm going to go right where the thread is. Here's my thread, and it's coming out of this space here. So I'm going to go right in that space, pop up in the space above, and catch the running thread. leave it loose for right now. Come over here. I have a very big space there, but I'm not going to worry about it because that will get loosened up in just a second. Get tightened up rather in just a second. Okay, now I'm going to squeeze the bottom of the sleeve and I'm going to pull my thread. And I'm going to keep pulling until my stitches come together. Now, I'm not going to, on the last one, I'm going to loosen that one up just so that I could see where I was, because I'm using where the yarn is coming out as a guideline for where I should stick my needle next. And you'll just continue this way, going about 4 stitches each time, 4 or 5, leaving the ladders loose like this. Here's my next stitch here, going there, catch the bar. Here's my next stitch here. Here, go in, catch the bar. Okay, grab it at the base and pull. And you can see it comes together to where now you have those, it looks like it's completely uninterrupted in the round. Okay, pull the last one so I could see where I was. I'm going to stick my finger up here so I can hold that flat. So here's my next, here's where the yarn is coming out. And here's my next stitch here. So I'll go in there, right where the yarn is coming out, and pop up, catching the bar, and the same on this side. Here's my next knit stitch. Here's where the yarn is coming out. I'll go right down in there and pop up, catching the bar. And you are working row to row. So if you didn't put a pin at the top, you could end up, you know, not off by a row. But in the beginning, it's just comforting to have the pin there. If you have a long ways to go, it's comforting to have the pin there. It's comforting to have the pin there to make sure things aren't going in the wrong direction. And with a little bit of practice, you will be able to get through seaming stuff together fairly quickly. You kind of develop a rhythm. I think it's pretty easy to do. Okay, pinch at the bottom and pull. That's what the seam will look like when it's done, completely invisible on the outside. And I want to turn the sleeve inside out to show you what it looks like on the inside. And I'm almost to the top here, so I will get up there. And with it, when doing the sleeves separately like we did also causes, and you'll see in a second what I'm talking about, a huge gaping hole that just about everybody panics over. But I do not want you to panic over this remaining gaping hole, because I'm going to show you how to deal with it. Oh, I don't want to catch that black, that's something else. Okay, and here I am at the very, very top, at the very, very top. And pulling the whole thing. Okay, so here's the big hole I'm talking about at the underarm. That is huge. But before we deal with that, let me talk about what the seam looks like on the inside of the sweater. So when you're doing a full-size sweater, the seam, it'll be bigger than this. Of course, mine's just the sample. It's little, but you could see here's the seam. It's nice and flat. It's not obtrusive on the inside. And on the outside, it is pretty much invisible. It's right here. You can't really see it. Okay, let's deal with this gaping hole. Now remember when we worked the sweater, we cast on 3 stitches at the bottom, and we cast on 2 stitches at either end of the sleeve. You know, let me go ahead and remove this marker because we don't need it anymore. This is that measuring marker, the horizontal marker that we put in earlier, and we're not going to use it now, so we'll just remove it. Okay. So this very same long thread here is what I'm going to use to seam this gaping space. Okay. So again, you can use your pin to bring your knitting together. So I'm going to, right here at the seam, I'm going to come up 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to come up and find the center stitch. Going to be right for 1 second. There's my center stitch. See, it looks like a V. Let me pin that so I can see how the knitting's coming together. And here, this looks like a knit stitch. Well, it's open right now, but you can see this is a column of knit stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thread and I'm going to come in. This is a column of knit stitches here, and here's its partner over here. So I'm going to come in with my yarn and get into, so that I'm in that, I'm coming out of this knit stitch that's there. So I'm coming out of the center of it, and I'm going to right to the right of this column of stitches. There's another column of stitches, so I'm going to find the bottommost column of stitches, and I'm actually not going to pick this one. Well, I guess I could. Yeah, I could. I'm going to pick this bottommost one. See my knit stitches that come together at the bottom. So I'm going to go behind both legs of that bottommost stitch. Leave it loose. I'm going to come into where the yarn is, where I came in, and I'm going to go next door to my next column of stitches. And over here. And then now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to catch the bottommost stitch again. I'm going to remove this pin now because it's in the way. I don't need it. I'm going to go behind both legs and I'm going to come right back into where I was and go across to the next column of stitches. So I've just done 2 for right now. I'm going to loosen it to show you what's happening. So I'm going to pull on these. And see what has happened? I have closed that hole and tightened up my stitches now so that it looks like uninterrupted knitting. And I still have these huge gaping holes on this side where the raglan was getting shaped. So I'm going to feed my thread back through my needle, turn my knitting, and then bring that together. Now here's where it gets kind of subjective. So what I'm going to do here, actually I still have, I'm in a knit, so I'm going to go up and go across one more time, catch a knit stitch there, come back where I was, and then come into the next one. I'm going to go ahead and pull that snug. Okay, now my work has changed direction. So here, I have to look at it to see what the best thing to do here is. And you can do several things here. I can come back over and just do, because this is where the raglan was being formed, so I can just bring these stitches together and using maybe a whip stitch. Oh. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to catch two strands here. This part gets subjective because here you really are just sewing. But you do it on the outside so that you could see what it looks like. And if it looks satisfactory to you, then you can continue with it. I have this looseness here that I don't like, so I'm going to pop back to the back so that I can deal with that, and I'll show you that looks just like a little stitch. So I'll show you how I would hide an elongated stitch or a loose stitch, because that's what it is. Let me pop up so I can tell you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's my knit stitch. It comes together at the bottom, and then we have this one here that's a big gaping stitch. So I just came up right here at the base of this stitch here. I'll go behind those two, and then I'll pop back inside to the inside, and that will hide that stitch. So now it looks pretty much uninterrupted. And I'll weave those ends in later. So this is what the underarm will look like when you're finished. Okay, we'll talk about picking up stitches for a button band and picking up stitches for a neck next time. I'll see you then.